Woohoo! We are live. Hello.
Hello. It is my turn to read.
It is your turn to read. I am going to be sewing the straps on this lovely mask.
Excellent.
Let me mute myself and then I can show you what it looks like without just sounding like a bag of seashells fighting.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I like.
So here's the plan. Because this is very plain. I have two others that are currently in the wash because I've used them, but they're like more fun fabrics or whatever. But this one is going to get a little applique of a QR code.
It is a QR code.
And it will carry a message to the community of positivity and solidarity, letting them know that I am never going to give them up and I am never going to let them down.
But we would turn around and desert us.
No.
Didn't think so.
No, never going to make you cry. And I'm never going to say goodbye. I'm only going to say au revoir.
How's about the lying? Is the lying going to happen?
No. I don't think so. Also, my camera on my computer is kind of freaking out with the lighting right now. I'm not sure why it's so upset, but I feel like... No, mine.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it just doesn't like the setup. This is a new setup. I built a desk, so the computer is on my desk now.
Oh, that's too grown up.
I'm so excited. It was a pain in the ass. It was awful. But yeah, and I have, you can't really see it here. I have a chair.
Oh, it's a chair.
It's a chair. It's a lime green chair.
Lime green chair. I have made plague doctor masks for all 4 kids and myself. But mine isn't finished. The others are doing all kinds of decora on them. You should see Brown's. It's hot pink with sequins.
That is magical. And also, how are you going to sterilize that?
Well, I don't know yet. Possibly a resin coat.
No, I mean, like a resin coat, and then you can like put it in the oven?
No, not so much. Lysol.
I don't know if Lysol will really work.
Yeah, right.
I would maybe
listen more about letting the kids enjoy themselves and not get swept up in the seriousness.
No, totally. I get things. I was just thinking I would maybe check and see what the melting point of the sequins and attaching whatever's is, because if it's over 165 degrees, you could just put it in the oven and that's fine.
Right.
And then it could be style and substance.
Ooh, that would be epic. There's also enough room in the nose cone for some, like, if I tear apart a furnace filter and use the batting. I've heard of the effectiveness thereof.
That was my initial plan. I was going to make a plague doctor mask and have like a removable filter in the nose cone.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how, because like that works for like you can take it out and replace it, but like what about the outside? I don't know. I'm still thinking this through myself.
I know, right?
These I can at least just throw in the washing machine.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Our washing machine even has a sterilize setting that I use on all the dishcloths.
Neat.
Yes. It is not so bad. Even if it is Samsung.
I mean, can't have everything.
Right. What
also,
else?
I will have to run downstairs at some point and get my dinner because Nick's making mac and cheese, but it's not done yet.
Check.
So that'll
When
happen.
you run away, I will babble inanely. Oh, I should babble inanely now. I should let people know. This is a bit meta, but join us humans. Join us humans.
Oh yeah. I can send you don't send them the link that I sent you.
No, of course not, because then we'd just have this crowd here.
Yeah. Yeah,
we want
I would
crowd.
not add them. I would not add them to the stream. I would be like, nay. I say nay.
Yeah, youtube.com/blah blah.
Let me send you a link. I can pull up a link to the video directly.
Sweet.
Because I don't think we have a custom YouTube URL. I don't think we're that schmancy.
No schmance.
A certain lack of schmance. Ooh, we have 8 subscribers now.
Ooh, that's awesome. As long as Mom isn't 5 of them. Hi, Mom.
I can't say. I don't actually know who they are. Okay.
Ooh.
All right. I'm gonna email you the direct link. The problem with going back and forth between a PC and a Mac
is everything.
Everything, yes, but also particularly that I forget that it's command and not control, and then I'm trying to copy things, and I cannot copy that. Okay, I think this should be it. Command, not control.
Are you emailing it to me, or are you just texting it to me?
I'm emailing it to you.
Okay.
I'm not on my phone, and you don't have iMessage.
No, I do not. I am 100% PC.
Unless we're talking about political correctness, in which case, not so much.
No, not even remotely. But when it comes to... Whoa! There we go.
I really need a thimble that fits. I was using a thimble that Sandy had yesterday, but it didn't really fit. And then you're like just trying to keep it on your finger, and that's harder than not using a thimble.
And then you're more likely to make the mistakes that you would have need thimbles for.
It's not even mistakes. It's that I need it to like push the needle through the fabric, because this is just like the hem of a sheet that we were cutting up for masks. So it's a lot.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that face?
I don't know if you've looked at our thumbnails, but they get
terrified. I am famous for making the worst faces. What ghost am I blowing?
Look, only you can truly answer that. Search your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, all of my photos of me are of me being like...
Yeah. Oh, I was going through old photos the other day. I should text this to you. I found a picture of me holding Morgan when she was a day old.
Aww.
Right.
Like, young.
This is just, man, sewing this on is just really not working for me right now.
Sorry.
Also, I just put lotion on my hands, so I'm like trying to push a needle through, and it's just like. Oh, I should have done that with the other.
I was out in the garden today, and I raked up a whole bunch of crap, and I cleaned up a bunch of stuff, and got some. So I don't officially mulch my beds in the fall. I just let the leaves drift onto the beds in the fall to protect it, which means that as early as possible in the spring, I need to remove them, because otherwise they just form this bent, like leathery mat of crap that suffocates anything that's trying to grow.
Indeed. So
that was today. I went out and got the dense, leathery, soggy leaves out of my flower beds to see if anything was growing. And I've got lilies coming up, and iris, and like one daffodil that the squirrels didn't didn't attack
A
us all.
lone daffodil grows in the city.
Yep. And it's like this tall. I have daffodil envy. One of my neighbors across the street has this massive bank of daffodils. It's always the first thing blooming every spring, and it's gorgeous right now. Flowers all out, and I'm like, my flowers
Okay, food's ready. I will be right back.
check, check. I will babble inanely. All right. So, yes. I'm not babbling. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal's sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabjous day, callooh, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths out.
So you should all be very jealous of me. This is super special mac and cheese.
Beautiful. I'm
that
not
Nick
jealous.
made.
I have pierogies.
Fine. Look, hear me out though.
Yes.
Super special mac and cheese that Nick made, and I don't know how many cheeses are in it, but I'm going to estimate 8 to 12.
Wow, that's more cheese
It's real
than
good.
pierogi. It's an embarrassment of riches. It is an embarrassment of cheeses.
The best kind of embarrassment. Anyways, so I'm going to eat that, and if you want to read.
I'm gonna read.
Huzzah!
The conspiracy was unmasked. Where were we? Did we do farewell we call to hearth and hall?
I stopped right before that.
All right.
He had just said, like, okay, you can come, and then they all danced around, and then I think that's where I stopped.
Right? They danced around him. Merry and Pippin began a song which they had apparently got ready for the occasion. It was made on the model of the dwarf song that started Bilbo on his adventure long ago. Yes.
I realize we just got started, but who decides to write a song for every occasion? Like, I have never once written a song specifically to sing to my friend when we started a vacation.
So Merry and Pippin were hanging out one day and they were like, do you think Frodo will let us go with him? And he's like, you know, if we get him to, we ought to like celebrate. We ought to have confetti. We don't even know what confetti is. All right, we ought to have we ought to dance. Dance to what? All right, we'll make up a song.
I'm with you, but here's how I see it having gone is do you think Frodo will let us go with him? There can be no doubt of it if we put the matter to him correctly. And then
yeah, that's well, I suppose.
All right, continue.
Apparently it goes to the same tune, which doesn't really work because the tune that the dwarves used was more like morose, but I don't think Tolkien thought about that. Anyway, first two lines, last two lines, everybody. Farewell we call to hearth and hall, though wind may blow and rain may fall. We must away ere break of day, far over wood and mountain tall, etc., etc. We must away, we ride before the break of day. Very good, said Frodo. But in that case, there are a lot of things to do before we go to bed. Under a roof, for tonight at any rate. Oh, that was poetry, said Pippin. Do you really mean to start before the break of day? I don't know, answered Frodo. I fear those black riders, and I am sure it is unsafe to stay in one place long, especially in a place to which it is known I was going. Also, Gildor advised me not to wait. But I should very much like to see Gandalf. I could see that even Gildor was disturbed when he heard that Gandalf had never appeared. It really depends on two things. How soon could the riders get to Bucklebury, and how soon could we get off? It will take a good deal of preparation. The answer to the second question, said Mary, is that we could get off in an hour. I have...
So I've been sitting here snickering and I forgot my mic was muted in two places. But it sounded like this.
I have prepared practically everything. There are 6 ponies in a stable across the fields. Stores and tackle are all packed, except for a few extra clothes and the perishable food. It seems to have been a very efficient conspiracy, said Frodo. But what about the Black Riders? Would it be safe to wait one day for Gandalf? That all depends on what you think the riders would do if they found you here, answered Mary. They could have reached here by now, of course, if they were not stopped at the north gate, where the hedge runs down to the river bank, just this side of the bridge. The gate guards would not let them through by night, though they might break through. Even in the daylight they would try to keep them out, I think, at any rate until they got a message through to the master of the hall, for they would not like the look of the riders, and would certainly be frightened by them. But of course Buckland cannot resist a determined attack for long, and it is possible that in the morning even a black rider that rode up and asked for Mr. Baggins would be let through. It is pretty generally known that you are coming back to live at Crickhollow. Frodo sat for a while and thought. I have made up my mind, he said finally. I am starting tomorrow as soon as it is light. But I am not going by road. It would be safer to wait here than that. If I go through the north gate, my departure from Buckland will be known at once, instead of being secret for several days at least, as it might be. And what is more, the bridge and the east road near the borders will certainly be watched, whether any rider gets into Buckland or not. We don't know how many there are, but there are at least 2 and possibly more. The only thing to do is to go off in a quite unexpected direction. But that can only mean going into the old forest, said Fredegar, horrified. You can't be thinking of doing that. It is quite as dangerous as Black Riders. Not quite, said Mary. It sounds very desperate, but I believe Frodo is right. It is the only way of getting off without being followed at once. With luck, we might get a considerable start. But you won't have any luck in the old forest, objected Fredegar. No one ever has luck in there. You'll get lost. People don't go in there. Oh, yes, they do, said Mary. The Brandybucks go in. Occasionally, when the fit takes them. We have a private entrance. Frodo went in once, long ago. I have been in several times. Usually in daylight, of course, when the trees are sleepy and fairly quiet. Well, do as you think best, said Fredegar. I am more afraid of the old forest than of anything I know about. The stories about it are a nightmare. But my vote hardly counts, as I am not going on the journey. Still, I am very glad someone is stopping behind. What's up?
Have we talked about the fact of the old forest as a further confirmation of your theory about Entwives?
No, but that it
Here's
might.
my
Yeah, go ahead.
here's my thinking is that when Ents are present, trees tend to wake up. So it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
necessarily that the Entwives deliberately did that. It's just that them being there for a while woke up the trees, but the Entwives weren't interested in the trees, so the trees
No.
got angry because they were
Oh,
being neglected and
oh,
became the
yeah.
old forest.
Middle child syndrome. The whole forest child syndrome. I could totally see that. I want some fourth age stories about the Ents traveling to the old forest and really like getting it under heel and finding the Entwives again, damn it. But we'll get to I sure as shit hope this isn't some people's first experience of this book because
What are you talking about? This would be a great first experience. This was our first experience.
first experience. Ah, do. I am very glad someone is stopping behind who can tell Gandalf what you have done when he turns up, as I am sure he will before long. Fond as he was of Frodo, Fatty Bolger had no desire to leave the Shire, nor to see what lay outside it. His family came from the East Farthing, from Budgeford in Bridgefields, in fact, but he had never been over the Brandywine Bridge. His task, according to the original plan of the conspirators, was to stay behind and deal with inquisitive folk and to keep up as long as possible the pretense that Mr. Baggins was still living at Crick Hollow. He had even brought along some old clothes of Frodo's to help him in playing the part. They little thought how dangerous that part might prove. Dun dun dun!
Well, I'm just saying, if you're being chased by someone who wants to murder you and you're like, here, put on my old clothes and pretend to be me.
Yeah, they did that in an episode of Bones, and we lost one of my favorite characters. It wasn't put on my clothes. It was, here, you answer this phone while I do this something over here. And then the sniper took out the person who answered the phone.
I don't remember that episode. Which?
Victor, I think. It's been years, guys, so forgive me. But Victor or Vincent, the assistant that was killed by the sniper that had gone rogue, that had been an old army comrade of Booth's.
Yeah, I don't remember that episode at all. I sort of had
cried a bunch.
I had a very upsetting breakup with Bones.
Yeah, what happened?
Zach happened.
Zach.
He was the little nerdy one that was really good friends with Hodgins.
Oh, yeah, that was a long time.
Mm-hmm. They did him dirty back in like season 4.
Yeah, that was before I started watching. I went back and watched that after I found out about it, but at that point it was like ancient history, so it didn't hurt so much.
Yeah, I was watching it in real time. Like, this was back when I actually had access to a TV, so I was like watching it as it was airing, and I was just like,
yeah, that really messed up all those characters for like ages. They brought it up periodically.
It messed me up for ages.
And yeah, and I watched from season 6 to 8, and then I lost track of it for a while, and then I heard that another character died that was super, super important, and I was like, well, I'm not going to catch up now. Screw these guys.
Basically. Once Booth and Bones got together, it had jumped the shark anyway.
Yeah. I don't know, they had a really cute scene where they were trying to decide how they were going to have their new apartment laid out, and Booth was trying to argue for a television in the bedroom. And Bones just trotted out some statistic about how couples with a TV in the bedroom get laid like 72% less. And he was like, okay, never mind.
Well, all right.
Yeah, that was a really cute moment.
That's a pretty good moment.
Anyway,
So
Fatty's going to hang up Frodo's clothes and pretend he's still around. Excellent, said Frodo when he understood the plan. We could not have left any message behind for Gandalf otherwise. I don't know whether these riders can read or not, of course, but I should not have dared to risk a written message in case they got in and searched the house. But if Fatty is willing to hold the fort, and I can be sure of Gandalf knowing the way we have gone, that decides me. I am going into the old forest first thing tomorrow. Well, that's that, said Pippin. On the whole, I would rather have our job than Fatty's, waiting here till black riders come. You wait till you are well inside the forest, said Fredegar. You'll wish you were back here with me before this time tomorrow. It's no good arguing about it anymore, said Mary. We've still got to tidy up and put the finishing touches to the packing before we get to bed. I shall call you all before the break of day. When, at last, he had got to bed, Frodo could not sleep for some time. His legs ached. He was glad that he was riding in the morning. Eventually he fell into a vague dream in which he seemed to be looking out of a high window over a dark sea of tangled trees. Down below, among the roots, there was the sound of creatures crawling and snuffling. He felt sure they would smell him out sooner or later. Then he heard a noise in the distance. At first he thought it was a great wind coming over the leaves of the forest. Then he knew that it was not leaves, but the sound of the sea far off, a sound he had never heard in waking life, though it had often troubled his dreams. Suddenly he found he was out in the open. There were no trees after all. He was on a dark heath, and there was a strange salt smell in the air. Looking up, he saw before him a tall white tower standing alone on a high ridge. A great desire came over him to climb the tower and see the sea. He started to struggle up the ridge toward the tower, but suddenly a light came in the sky and there was a noise of thunder. And don't hope that that has any significance to our journey ahead. Whenever dreams are shared, they are either referencing like completely different material or they're not referencing anything and they're just dreams.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a dream Tolkien had one time, and he was like, oh man, that was fucked up. I should put that in the book.
Verbatim. Chapter 6, The Old Forest. And that's not the last time we get to see people's dreams either.
Nope.
Frodo woke suddenly. It was still dark in the room. Mary was standing there with a candle in one hand and banging on the door with the other. All right, what is it? Said Frodo, still shaken and bewildered. What is it? Cried Mary. It is time to get up. It is 4:30 and very foggy. Come on, Sam is already getting breakfast ready. Even Pippin is up. I am just going to saddle the ponies and fetch the one that is to be the baggage carrier. Wake that sluggard Fatty. At least he must get up and see us off.
This is like my nightmare, by the way. Someone being like, okay, we're going to go on a road trip. We're going to start at 4:30 a.m. after a late night of drinking.
Yeah.
Nope. Sauron can have me. Nope.
Sneezing. Oi. Soon after 6 o'clock, the 5 hobbits were ready to start. Fatty Bulger was still yawning. They stole quietly out of the house. Mary went in front, leading a laden pony, and took his way along a path that went through a spinney behind the house, and then cut across several fields. The leaves of trees were glistening, and every twig was dripping. The grass was grey with cold dew. Everything was still, and far-away noises seemed near and clear. Fowls chattering in a yard, someone closing a door of a distant house. In their shed they found the ponies, sturdy little beasts of the kind loved by hobbits, not speedy, but good for a long day's work. They mounted, and soon they were riding off into the mist, which seemed to open reluctantly before them and close forbiddingly behind them. After riding for about an hour, slowly and without talking, they saw the hedge looming suddenly ahead. It was tall and netted over with silver cobwebs. "How are you going to get through this?" asked Fredegar. "Follow me," said Merry, "and you will see." He turned to the left along the hedge, and soon they came to a point where it bent inwards, running along the lip of a hollow. A cutting had been made at some distance from the hedge, and went sloping gently down into the ground. It had walls of brick at the sides, which rose steadily, until suddenly they arched over and formed a tunnel that dived deep under the hedge and came out in the hollow on the other side. Here Fatty Bulger halted. "Goodbye, Frodo," he said. "I wish you were not going into the old forest. I only hope you will not need rescuing before the day is out. But good luck to you, today and every day." "If there are no worse things ahead than the old forest, I shall be lucky," said Frodo. "Tell Gandalf to hurry along the east road. We shall soon be back on it and going as fast as we can." "Goodbye," they cried, and rode down the slope and disappeared from Fredegar's sight into the tunnel. It was dark and damp. At the far end it was closed by a gate of thick-set iron bars. Merry got down and unlocked the gate, and when they had all passed through, he pushed it to again. It shut with a clang, and the lock clicked. The sound was ominous. "There," said Merry. "You have left the Shire, and are now outside, and on the edge of the old forest." "Are the stories about it true?" asked Pippin. "I don't know what stories you mean," Merry answered. "If you mean the old bogey stories Fatty's nurses used to tell him, about goblins and wolves and things of that sort, I should say no. At any rate, I don't believe them. But the forest is queer. Everything in it is very much more alive, more aware of what is going on, so to speak, than things are in the Shire. And the trees do not like strangers. They watch you. They are usually content merely to watch you as long as daylight lasts and don't do much. Occasionally the most unfriendly ones may drop a branch or stick a root out or grasp at you with a long trailer. But at night, things can be most alarming, or so I am told. I have only once or twice been in here after dark, and then only near the hedge. I thought all the trees were whispering to each other, passing news and plots along in an unintelligible language, and the branches swayed and groped without any wind. They do say the trees do actually move and can surround strangers and hem them in. In fact, long ago they attacked the hedge. They came and planted themselves right by it and leaned over it. But the hobbits came and cut down hundreds of trees and made a great bonfire in the forest and burned all the ground in a long strip east of the hedge. Hobbits are fucking cruel.
I mean, it's not a great thing to do.
And the attack was that they came and leaned over the hedge. Like,
Okay,
if I
well,
lean over a hedge and someone slaughters me and my kin and then burns us.
here's the thing though, like that actually would be really creepy because then like they lean over the hedge and then maybe they like start to tear into the hedge and then next thing you know, like the old forest is like in the Shire and it's trying to take over. I'm also being informed in this opinion by a book called Uprooted,
Yeah.
which if you haven't read it,
No.
is real creepy. And it involves what's basically the old forest.
Okay.
And like the forest in that book will occasionally like just sort of if they don't keep it like burned back will just like pop out and take someone and then
Yeah,
and then
no.
they come back wrong.
Ah.
Yeah, it's upsetting. So that's what I'm thinking about when you're saying
Okay.
this is too cruel. I'm like, no, maybe not.
Yeah, it might be difficult to negotiate too, so.
Indeed.
Burned all the ground in a long strip east of the hedge. After that, the trees gave up the attack, but they became very unfriendly. There is still a wide, bare space not far inside where the bonfire was made. Is it only the trees that... What?
Oh, I was just gonna say, okay, that's a little. Like after that, they became unfriendly. Were they not unfriendly before that? Because if they weren't, then maybe you went a little far.
Were they curious? Like, could you have tried diplomacy first? Somebody fetch Picard.
If only we could.
Right. Incidentally, I'm very much enjoying Picard.
I'm not watching it, but I've heard very good things.
It's well done. The only thing that upsets me is that every single person he runs into has a beef with the fact that he kind of gave up 12 years before. And like a serious beef, like his 40 years of sterling service are shit. He was insulted and frustrated, and he gave up his doing anything about anything, and that is what he's been remembered for by like every other character.
That seems excessive.
It feels very excessive. He takes it in good part, and he thinks that they're like justified pretty much, but it's watching it, you're like, oh please, somebody's don't yeah. Anyway, still very, very watchable, and I am looking forward to finding out how this season goes, because I'm 6 episodes in.
Nice.
Right. Is it only the trees that are dangerous? Asked Pippin. There are various queer things living deep in the forest and on the far side, said Mary. Or at least I have heard so, but I have never seen any of them. But something makes paths. Whenever one comes inside, one finds open tracks, but they seem to shift and change from time to time in a queer fashion. Not far from this tunnel there is, or was for a long time, the beginning of quite a broad path leading to the bonfire glade, and then on more or less in our direction, east and a little north. That is the path I am going to try and find. The hobbits now left the tunnel gate and rode across the wide hollow. On the far side was a faint path leading up onto the floor of the forest, 100 yards and more beyond the hedge, but it vanished as soon as it brought them under the trees. Looking back, they could see the dark line of the hedge through the stems of trees that were already thick about them. Looking ahead, they could see only tree trunks of innumerable sizes and shapes, straight or bent, twisted, leaning, squat or slender, smooth or gnarled and branched. And all the stems were green or gray with moss and slimy, shaggy growths.
Blech.
Bleh. Do not hug these trees.
No tree hugging.
No tree hugging. Mary alone seemed fairly cheerful. You had better lead on and find that path, Frodo said to him. Don't let us lose one another or forget which way the hedge lies. They picked away among the trees, and their ponies plodded along, carefully avoiding the many writhing and interlacing roots. There was no undergrowth. The ground was rising steadily, and as they went forward, it seemed that the trees became taller, darker, and thicker. There was no sound, except an occasional drip of moisture falling through the still leaves. For the moment, there was no whispering or movement among the branches, but they all got an uncomfortable feeling that they were being watched with disapproval, deepening to dislike and even enmity. The feeling steadily grew until they found themselves looking up quickly or glancing back over their shoulders as if they expected a sudden blow. There was not as yet any sign of a path, and the trees seemed constantly to bar their way. Pippin suddenly felt that he could not bear it any longer, and without warning let out a shout. "Oi, oi!" he cried. "I am not going to do anything. Just let me pass through, will you?" The others halted, startled, but the cry fell as if muffled by a heavy curtain. There was no echo or answer, though the woods seemed to become more crowded and more watchful than before. "I should not shout if I were you," said Mary. "It does more harm than good." Frodo began to wonder if it were possible to find a way through, and if he had been right to make the others come into this abominable wood. Mary was looking from side to side and seemed already uncertain which way to go. Pippin noticed it. "It has not taken you long to lose us," he said. But at that moment Mary gave a whistle of relief and pointed ahead. "Well, well," he said, "these trees do shift. There is the bonfire glade in front of us, or so I hope, but the path to it seems to have moved away." Ever been lost in a forest?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Not that I can recall.
I think my redwood walk kind of counts. I was on a path the whole time, but I was given the wrong map and I didn't know where the path was going.
I feel like that counts.
It was beautiful. I got 100 pictures of my walk, but it was like I had a map of a hiking trail that was like 1 mile and went around the campground. So you'd end up where you started. And the path had washed away and there was a branch, a fork in the path. And so I took the fork thinking, well, and it said something blah, blah, loop 3.3 miles. And I was like, okay, I can handle 3 miles. I'll just take the bigger loop and end up back where I started. And that's not what happened. I was in and out of valleys and ravines and across bridges and all kinds of mad crap. And I eventually got dumped out on the road that was the entrance to the forest, to the campground, which was about no, not quite. It was a mile and a half from the campground, and I stomped up to the little cabin and said, "Can I please have a more extensive map of this area, because I've just been on a path and I don't know why or how or what it was or where I went or how to get back." and they did, and it turned out I'd been on a heck of an adventure, and of course Emily was about ready to send out search parties because I'd said I'm going on a little walk, and that was 3 hours before.
Oh God.
It was my turn to cook dinner. Yeah, it was a thing. I'll post pictures somewhere someday.
Did you feel like the redwoods were watching you?
Yes, but not with disapproval. At one point I heard an animal like crashing away and remembered that large animals don't like being surprised and I should probably try to make some noise. And I didn't have any like bells or anything, so I just started singing. So I was wandering deeper and deeper into the redwoods singing show tunes.
As one does.
Yeah. Origin of Love echoing across the little gullies and things. It was, I kind of hoped that someone somewhere would hear me and be like, okay, this is fucked up. But yeah, those woods were totally chill. Those woods didn't give a rat's ass about me. I was a ladybug to them.
Yeah.
There was no enmity there. But I can imagine being in that situation and feeling enmity and being like, oh fuck.
I feel like there's also sort of an ancestral aspect to it, right? Like, old growth forests were some real serious shit. And we lived in and around them for a very long time. So it's very understandable to be like, I don't want to get lost in the woods. Trees are too scary.
Yep. Tons of our fairy tales involve getting lost in the woods. Bad things happening.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Oh. Stretchy.
Anyway.
Hey, nope, wrong arm. Hey, muscles.
The light grew clearer as they went forward. Suddenly they came out of the trees and found themselves in a wide, circular space. There was sky above them, blue and clear to their surprise, for down under the forest roof they had not been able to see the rising morning and the lifting of the mist. The sun was not, however, high enough yet to shine down into the clearing, though its light was on the treetops. The leaves were all thicker and greener.
I'll just mute myself. There's just kids playing outside.
Oh, okay. Thicker and greener about the edges of the glade, enclosing it with an almost solid wall. No tree grew there, only rough grass and many tall plants, stocky and faded hemlocks and wood parsley, fireweed seeding into fluffy ashes, and rampant nettles and thistles. A dreary place, but it seemed a charming and cheerful garden after the close forest. The hobbits felt encouraged, and looked up hopefully at the broadening daylight in the sky. At the far side of the glade there was a break in the wall of trees, and a clear path beyond it. They could see it running on into the wood, wide in places and open above, though every now and again the trees drew in and overshadowed it with their dark boughs. Up this path they rode. They were still climbing gently, but now went much quicker and with better heart, for it seemed to them that the forest had relented and was going to let them pass unhindered after all. But after a while the air began to get hot and stuffy. The trees drew close again on either side, and they could no longer see far ahead. Now, stronger than ever, they felt again the ill will of the wood pressing on them. So silent was it that the fall of their ponies' hoofs, rustling on dead leaves and occasionally stumbling on hidden roots, seemed to thud in their ears. Frodo tried to sing a song to encourage them, but his voice sank to a murmur. It's short, so we'll just read the whole thing. O wanderers in the shadowed land, despair not, for though dark they stand, all woods there be must end at last, and see the open sun go past. The setting sun, the rising sun, the day's end or the day begun. For east or west, all woods must fail. Fail. Even as he said the word, his voice faded into silence. The air seemed heavy and the making of words wearisome. Just behind them, a large branch fell from an overhanging tree with a crash into the path. The trees seemed to close in before them. They do not like all that about ending and failing, said Mary. I should not sing any more at present. Wait till we do get to the edge, and then we'll turn and give them a rousing chorus. He spoke cheerfully, and if he felt any great anxiety, he did not show it. The others did not answer. They were depressed. A heavy weight was settling steadily on Frodo's heart, and he regretted now, with every step forward, that he had ever thought of challenging the menace of the trees. He was, indeed, just about to stop and propose going back, if that was still possible, when things took a new turn. The path stopped climbing and became for a while, nearly level. The dark trees drew aside, and ahead they could see the path going almost straight forward. Before them, but some distance off, there stood a green hilltop, treeless, rising like a bald head out of the encircling wood. The path seemed to be making directly for it. It's funny to me that before any of their adventures, the mere fact that they're riding through a gloomy wood is that discouraging to them.
I mean, it's like the most dangerous thing that they've done so far.
Well, maybe that they know of. I mean, the riders aren't pursuing them, so it's technically less dangerous. But it's like they haven't been stopped. They don't have a wall of bushes. Their ponies aren't covered in nettles. They're just sad because the wood is depressing.
I mean, yeah, I suppose.
It's a bit weak, is all I'm saying. I'm glad they grow so much. It'd be interesting to see how they feel about the old forest, like after they get back at the end of beyond the end of Return of the King.
So I'm in two minds about that. And the first one is that they would just be like, whatever, and not even notice.
Yeah.
The second one is that I wonder if Frodo would actually be more sensitive to it because he's become sensitized to the presence of evil from spending so much time with the ring and going to Mordor and all of that, like trauma, that he would actually find it like impossible to even go near.
That's possible. And he hates conflict and enmity and all that stuff is stuff he's very sensitive to later, but I feel like he wouldn't notice. I feel like Old Man Willow would try to sing him and the others to sleep, and they'd be like, "No."
I have heard these songs before.
Oh, right. They do not impress me.
It's possible. There's a fan fiction there.
Absolutely. Frodo
I'm
goes
not.
back to the old Frodo goes and visits Bombadil. That is
That's the fanfic. Yeah.
yeah. And at that point, so he's been so nearly absorbed by evil himself that the forest might just not fuck with him. It is also sensitive to
That is true.
Yeah. Because it doesn't fuck with Tom Bombadil.
No. I mean, Tom Bombadil's a whole other kind of situation, though.
He is. He is that thing. We're sitting at 55. Should we go a little further, or
are we already? Wow, time flies.
I know, right?
Totally up to you.
Oh, they're making directly for a hill. Let's continue there next time, yeah?
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. I have some solid work done on my little QR code here.
Woo!
Trying to figure out how I want to attach it to the mask because I can sew it on, but I don't know how well it's going to wash. So I have to think about that.
As long as you've got the edges covered in a way that so they don't fray, it should be okay. I don't think it'll shrink, do you?
I don't think it'll shrink, but I wonder about like the embroidery thread bleeding or just the fabric because it's Ada fabric.
Right.
So it's not really intended to be washed. It's more for display.
Yeah. You could like do a little sample piece, just a whip stitch that's this big, and then wash that with a load of laundry and see what happens to it.
I could. That sounds like an awful lot of planning.
Okay, Mr. Miz. I can't remember how he's going to finish that sentence.
Probably snarkily. I'm just guessing from your tone.
You know how you're going to sterilize your stuff, so that took planning. Yeah.
I mean, that took two things. That took reading an article.
Yeah.
And talking to Dad, but also like most of the actual organizational part was done by Sandy.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's not pretend that I put all of this together by myself. I am attaching the straps and decorating it, and that's the sum total of the involvement that I had.
Check. Oh,
Pray do not give me so much credit.
but I must.
I suppose if you must.
I must. Do you want to do every other day from here?
Let's play it by ear this week. My boss is on PTO and I'm going to be doing his job, so I don't know how tired I'm going to be.
Yeah, there's
But
that.
judging from the last time I did that job, possibly very.
Right.
So let's just give it a
Aim for Wednesday, but you might be too sleepy.
yeah.
Okay. Humans, we'll see you on Wednesday, possibly.
Indeed. Keep an eye on one of our Facebooks or both,
Yeah.
or just the channel.
Yeah. Subscribe. That'd be awesome.
If you subscribe and then you click the little bell icon, you can turn on post notifications and then you can see when we post a video, and that might tell you if we're live streaming. I don't actually know.
I don't know. You tell us. It tells you. All right. I love you.
I love you too.
See you Wednesday, I hope.
See you Wednesday-ish.
Claro.
Te amas.